So let's imagine we've had this hiatus. Doctor Who's now with shiny new owners, and Mitch Benn gets to write a story. What is it?
Well, if I were the new showrunner, I actually did a video about this about 6 or 7 years ago about how I would have brought it back. Okay. Because back in the wilderness years, we all had our own ideas about how we'd do it if we were the ones to bring it back. You know what I mean? And I formulated essentially how I would, a vague plot outline for like the first 3 seasons of how I would do it if I brought it back. Because I remember thinking the really big mistake that the Paul McGann made, because of course there had been a previous attempt to bring it back in 1996. With the American movie star Paul McGann. And the main mistake that made was trying to have 35 years of backstory and a plot in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And what that forgets is that when Doctor Who started in 1963, you didn't get any backstory, largely because I don't think they decided what it was yet.
No.
I do know that regeneration was a complete expedient when it turned out that their leading man was basically, had early onset dementia and they had to get rid of him. And so they have this idea that, what happens if maybe when the Doctor dies, have we established this guy's human? No, not really. Okay, maybe when he dies, he turns into someone else. What? And so it's a genius idea because it meant you could have actual diegetic recasting. It's just about one of the few examples of a story where you can have in-story recasting rather than just switch him out for another actor and hope nobody notices. You know what I mean? You can actually, and that of course meant that you didn't even have to rope up somebody who looked like William Hartnell. It could be fucking anybody, And as such, the Doctor can then be anybody. It was a genius idea, but a total expedient, And they certainly didn't come up with the Time Lords until 6 years later. The Time Lords aren't introduced until Patrick Troughton's last story. Up until then, they had not defined who he was or where he was from. So the thing is, you do not need any backstory to start, and I thought it would be really fun if you just started with a completely blank slate and refused to answer whether it's a sequel or a reboot. Just don't say. Is this following on from the existing series, or is this a complete reboot in its own continuity?
It just is.
Not telling you.
Yeah, it just is. Yeah.
And there will be a way of resolving that in due course. But I thought, I can go. I'm tanking on like you wouldn't believe. I can go on about what my idea. No, I tell you what. If you want to know what my idea of how to resolve whether or not it was a reboot, but certainly I think my specific idea of how to resolve that might not work now, given all the changes that they made to kind of the, I did meet Chris Chibnall in a pub, and I really should have asked him at some point, was that whole timeless child nonsense purely in order to canonize the Morbius faces? Is that all you were trying to do? And I'm glad that I don't have to explain to you guys what I mean by that.
No, it's fine. We already know this.
Some of the faithful will know what I mean, retroactively canonizing the Morbius faces. But because if that's so, that was completely unnecessary, because one of the things that you have to acquire as a fan is the maturity to recognize that this shit's made up and that canon is inconsistent.
Yes, that's the whole charm.
You have to have the maturity, because, for example, the idea that a Time Lord can run out of regenerations wasn't introduced until about 4 stories after the Brain of Morbius. Previous to that, the idea that you could run out, that you got 13, that wasn't established mythology until Deadly Assassin, which is about 4 or 5 stories after the Brain of Morbius, in which the Doctor appears to be regressed through an unending series of past lives, thus suggesting that William Hartnell was not his first one, and that he'd actually been around for, which would make sense if you think about it, because he's meant to be like 900 years old, and from what we've seen, all his lives last about 4 years each.
Yes.
Apart from the first one, which apparently lasted 700. You know what I mean?
No.
But anyway,
I see Peter Capaldi recently says he thinks there's been too many regenerations. He thinks that's where it's gone wrong recently.
Well, it could be. Possibly. Although that kind of template was established with Chris Eccleston, one in and one out, But the thing is, it was very important to get somebody like Chris Eccleston because they needed a proper actor. Because there was this weird thing in the 80s where Doctor Who started to be seen as almost a kind of branch of Light N.
Yes.
And, people were talking about the next Doctor. People said the next Doctor Who should be Paul Daniels. Not a variety show. It's not Life from Her Majesty's. It's meant to be, it's very, very high high-blown fantasy scenarios, but you've got to play them straight or they don't work.
No, we did have Bonnie Langford, didn't we? Bonnie Langford.
Well, this is it, and it's starting to get all a bit, I mean, and no disrespect to Bonnie, but it was all starting to get a bit bloody end of the pier, you know what I mean? And it's like, that's not what it's meant to be, just because it's, it's associated with Saturday night, BBC One. It's not a bloody variety show. And it was very important to get not just a proper actor, but if anything, Eccleston was a perfect choice because he was regarded as a bit of a, somebody, if anything, took it all a bit too bloody seriously. He was regarded as being all a bit po-faced and intense. But that was good. Because he got to goof off a bit. And I thought he was quite, it was quite nice watching Chris Eccleston be goofy for the one and only time in his career. But it was very important to bring it back with somebody who was a respected actor. And it was a shame that he only lasted the 1 year. Tennant, I thought, played a blinder because Tennant, although, they do need to stop bringing him back. I mean, because apart from anything else, I think one of the things which has become a bit, not cloying, but a bit obvious since the return of Russell T is things which are being done for production and publicity reasons rather than story reasons.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of messages.
There was no obvious story-based reason to bring David Tennant back other than you didn't want, if you weren't going to do a multi-doctor story, and obviously you didn't want to do a multi-doctor story so soon after, the one for the 50th, you needed to, you didn't want the 50th anniversary to be either Jodie's last story or Shuey's first story. You could see why that didn't make any sense, even if ultimately the 50th one was kind of Matt's penultimate story. But you didn't want to either write out an incumbent doctor or introduce a brand new doctor in what is essentially the 60th anniversary special, even if it was like a 3-part 60th anniversary special. So they brought back, the most popular doctor of the modern era. But that was fairly obviously a production/publicity decision rather than a story decision. So that kind of puts a big crack in the fourth wall right there. Do you know what I mean? They kind of, we're seeing a bit too much of the underlying mechanism of what is essentially making this work as a TV show rather than just making this work as a story. And the same thing, and it was so obvious when Billy turned up in the last minute that the sort of placeholder, we have no idea what we're doing.
Smacks of desperation.
I mean? We have literally no idea what we're doing.
No.
So Billy's always up for a laugh. So we've got her, and we've got her to just do. And also, she's very loyal to the show and will come back whenever, much like Tennant. But they've got to stop bringing him back. But what I thought was particularly funny about the way they resolved, Dr. 14, why they have to insist he's a different incarnation of Dr. 10, I don't know. You could just say Dr. 10's back. It's fine. Although it's just as well that Dr. 10 never met Dr. 13 because there is no way he's not getting off with himself. But but what I thought was quite interesting was that people say, David Tennant's just turning into the Doctor. No, actually, the Doctor's turning into David Tennant because if you recall, it ends up with that version of the Doctor living in a big house in Chiswick with a TARDIS in the garden.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
David Tennant lives in a big house in Chiswick with a TARDIS in the garden.
Yeah.
It's even the same part of town. That's his manor. He lives in Chiswick. So it's fairly obvious. I mean, they've run out of road. I'm not sure how good an idea getting in with Disney was, unless they paid for that vast white console room because that was beautiful, and they really should keep that if it's all possible. That's kind of how I've always wanted the console room to look, like Peter Davison's, but the size of an aircraft.
I think as we enter the second wilderness years, the fans will keep it alive, won't they, with the fan fiction like they always have.
It would do it no harm whatsoever to take anything up to and including, I think, about 5 years off. Anything over that might start to get a bit worrying. But then again, what you bear in mind is the first wilderness years was neatly bisected by the McGann movie. So while it was ostensibly gone for 16 years, it was actually gone for 7 years and then 9 years. You see what I mean?
Shot of adrenaline, didn't it?
Exactly. It was gone for 7 years and then 9 years. And let's face it, when the McGann movie went nowhere, most of us thought that was it. Most of if you've actually brought it back and it's failed, that's it. We will never see it. It's like, I basically at that moment wrote it off. And that's why when it was announced in 2003 that it was coming back, I didn't believe it because there have been so many false dawns in the meantime. So many things turned up in the news stories of, absolutely positively Doctor Who is coming back and it will be blah, and it had never been, it never had any substance to it. So when it was re-announced in 2003, I think a lot of people, I was like, yeah, whatever,
Let's see what happens next. I'm just enjoying the look of bewildered, polite confusion on my cousin's face at the moment.
I'm afraid. You rip the Doctor Who string and just set me off. But I don't think it will do it any harm whatsoever to have about 4 or 5 years off. Because then, if anything, you see what it was starting to lose, I think. And the 60th went some way towards repairing this. And I don't really know why the writing was very up and down in the Jodie era. Jodie was lovely and Jodie was a perfect choice. And one thing I did like about the Jodie era was how little bloody difference it made to the show to have a female Doctor.
Yeah, absolutely.
It made very, very little difference to the show. You know what I mean? It really didn't change it that much at all. And I thought that was quite an interesting thing to see. I thought they'd go with non-white male before female. And in actual fact, my bet was on Sacha Dhawan, who then turned up as the Master. So I was nearly right. But I thought they'll go with non-white bloke before they go with woman. But if anything, I think the whole... there was a sense that the BBC was losing confidence in it throughout the Jodie years, like moving it from off Saturdays, which is always the kiss of death, like relegating the Christmas special to New Year's special, which again felt like a demotion, however they presented it. So it was this feeling that it was kind of losing its specialness, and I think a couple of years in the wilderness might actually bring the specialness back.
For sure.
I think if nothing else, might bring some of its cachet back. But if you want to know how I would bring it back, go to my YouTube page and look for how I would have brought Doctor Who back. And it specifically specifies how that can... So I thought it would be really good to start with the fanboys and the newbies both equally bewildered, with the fanboys and the newbies not knowing what's going on,
Yeah, well, the fanboys would have hated that, though, wouldn't they?
I know, and good, because you should piss off them. Because here's the thing. Go on. So, Gemma's finally.
No, I like the idea of that. As a newbie, I like the idea that everyone would be on an equal playing field.
Yeah, everybody be equally bewildered. Yeah. Because one time I confess I was proud of Doctor Who was back when Rise of Skywalker came out. Because Rise of Skywalker, the reason that movie was such a dog's fucking breakfast was because it wasted half its runtime basically undoing everything that Rian Johnson did.
Yeah.
Which was such bullshit and incredibly disrespectful, and also just, let's face it, bloody unprofessional, particularly when you're dealing with like $200 million budgets. Because if you commission somebody to do the middle part of your trilogy, as far as I'm concerned, at that point, you have agreed to honour what he does, whatever he does in part 2 when you do part 3, right? Yeah. And if you don't like what he's doing in part 2, the time to point it out is at the script phase, not when you spent $200 million making the bloody film, right?
Yeah.
Now, because so much, I don't know if The Rise of Skywalker was J.J. Abrams deliberately rolling over and conceding everything to the toxic fanboys. But I do know that that's the movie he would have made had he been rolling over and conceding to the toxic fanboys. All right. We'll pretend the black guy's not really in it. We'll get rid of the Korean.
Get rid of the Asian woman.
And we'll have everybody be the long lost granddaughter of bloody fucking blah blah blah. You know what I mean? I hated that movie. I thought it was total bullshit. Yeah. But round about the same time as it did that, it was also in the middle of the toxic fanboys ranting and raving about the fact that they had a female Doctor. And in the middle of that series, they introduced an alternative Doctor from an alternate timeline. And she was still a woman and she was black. Fuck you! Yeah. You know what I mean? And I thought I was very, very proud. At this moment, I'm very, very proud of Chris Chibnall. Like, not only has he not, yielded to the toxic fanboys, he's gone out of his way to alienate the toxic. Because at the end of the day, the sooner the toxic fanboy, because the other thing the toxic fanboys never actually do is stop watching.
No,
they like the
they
Snyder
say
Bros,
they will.
Yeah, exactly. The Snyder Bros right now trying to sabotage Supergirl. Of course they've all got to bloody see it. Of course they fucking have. They're all denying it, But the Snyder Bros are just the worst, But it's the one thing the toxic fanboys never actually do is fuck it off and leave it to the people who still like it. You know what I mean? If you hate it that much, fuck away off and leave it for the people who still like it. Anyway, like I say, I hope. I hope they get, because Richard Osman went into great length about this on The Rest is Entertainment, that people are, because people have been asked that have been put out to tender, and people are misreading that as put out to pasture.
Yes.
And it's not.
It's very different.
It's up for sale, is what it means. And it will be bought because it's still an incredibly valuable property. Absolutely. They're just looking for another production partner, and
it'll be back. It may be a while. But it's not going anywhere. It'll be back.
It will. I think we can confidently say that now that it's been brought back twice. And, because the other thing people forget is there were like periods of 18 months when it wasn't on anyway, because there were like, 18-month gaps between, it hasn't been one season a year since 2005. It's missed a bunch of years. There've been like whole 12-month periods when it hasn't been on. So it's already had quite a few hiati, if that is the plural of hiatus. It's had quite a few of those already. So I think, to be perfectly honest, were it not for the attendant brouhaha, I don't think people probably wouldn't have bloody noticed if it just hadn't come back for 3 years or so,
No, probably not.
Everything I need to know, I learned from watching my TV, and I'm afraid that it has had a serious effect on me. My head's stuck in the 70s, I can't be fashionable or hip, and it has influenced what I look for in all of my relationships. Can't handle independent women with their modern ways. I need a woman like the ones I saw on Saturdays. Be my Doctor Who girl with a trusting face, patient and understanding as I drag you through time and space. My beautiful assistant, to flash your eyes and toss your curls and tell me that I'm brilliant. Be my Doctor Who girl. Saturday afternoons, what excitement, what a rush, between the end of Final Score and the start of Basil Brush. I love the show, I love the tune, I love the scarf, I love the hat, I love the girls. I told myself one day I'll have a girl like that. Behind my sofa there's a special place that we can hide. You'll